Welcome to Road to Recovery.
Welcome to Road to Recovery, Advocacy and Insights for Trucking Accidents with Sagi Shaked. Sagi Shaked is the founder of Shaked Law Personal Injury Lawyers and is ranked as one of the top 100 trial lawyers in the United States by the American Trial Lawyers Association. With a wealth of experience in personal injury, wrongful death, and complex litigation cases, he passionately advocates for victims and has recovered multi-million-dollar settlements in damages for his clients. I'm Lisa Mosbey, and today we're talking about fatal truck accidents and the critical role black box evidence can play when families are searching for answers after a devastating crash. Welcome, Sagi. Thanks for joining me for this conversation. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a good conversation, and it's good for everyone to know, and thanks for having me, Lisa.
Sagi, what is a truck's black box, and why can it become such an important piece of evidence after a fatal truck accident?
So whenever we think of a black box, or at least when I used to think of a black box before entering into this world, I would think of airplane. You see airplane crashes and you think of the black box data, and it'll tell you certain types of metrics on what happened. In a trucking case, the same is true, just like it would be in a car crash case. So the black box data or the electronic data recorder records certain metrics in a vehicle or in a truck, and it tells you, gives you a lot of data points and a lot of information to help you recreate the crash. So it's critical when you have a crash with any significant type of injuries, they immediately request to preserve that black box data.
And what kind of data is that we're talking about? Speed, I assume, is one of them, but I'm sure there's other things. What would those be?
So speed is one of them, absolutely. It tells you how fast the vehicle was going at the time of impact. And usually what the black box data will be able to tell you also is the last 5 seconds before the impact. So you're looking at speed, the throttle, how much RPMs the person was using at the time, braking status, so that's important as well, the steering angle, and if the person was using their seatbelt, as well as if the airbag deployed. So all those things are data points that you're going to have at the time, and that'll give you a good idea of what's going on at least the 5 seconds before. Was the person pushing the throttle? Was the person pushing the brake? How fast they were going? So if someone testifies and they tell you they're going 45, in reality, you have the black box data showing they're going 65, they're looking like they're a little bit um, hiding or not telling the truth or not being truthful. So that's kind of what we're looking at when we're getting that information, the black box data information.
5 seconds does not seem like a lot of time to be able to extract a lot of information. So, how does the black box evidence help prove whether a truck driver made mistakes before the collision?
So before the black box, we would have to rely on what the truck driver told us or informed us and what the accident reconstructionist could put together. But now when we have so many data points, for example, there's a crash. A lot of times what you'll see is the trucking company has a dash cam. So that's very helpful in telling us what happened. But if they don't have a dash cam, there's other cameras. We see them everywhere now. As you start traveling more, especially in a big city, you'll see a camera on every street. You'll see cars have cameras. So we're collecting data points. And when you have a data point of speed, for example, and sort of like the example I gave, I've had people tell me that they weren't pushing on the throttle or moving the car as fast as they were, and you have the black box data which actually shows that they were doing something inconsistent. The data doesn't lie. It's not like the data is making stuff up. Human beings can be mistaken. The data is not mistaken, and then it's how you use that data. But it's always going to be, if the driver is going 65 miles an hour, that's 65 miles an hour at the time of impact. So at least we know that in the 5 seconds before. If they were slowing down, going down from 85 to 65, we're going to have an idea of how fast they were going and what they were doing. So the data, the black box data information keeps the defendants honest, or at least makes them honest if they try to, create stuff or try to wiggle out of liability. So that's how we use the black box data, keeping them honest on the throttle, keeping them honest on the braking issue. Did they have their foot on the brake or not? Did they have their seatbelt on or not? What position was their steering angle? All those things help us keep it on, keep them honest. So that's important.
And Sagi, you mentioned other cameras and things happening around us. How quickly can this electronic data be lost or overwritten if steps aren't taken right away to preserve it?
So what we try to do is what the law says, the federal law says that your data in your vehicle, that's your data. So what we want to do is, meaning the person who's driving the vehicle or the company that owns the vehicle, we want to send out those preservation letters as soon as you get the case. The second you sign up that case, send that preservation letter to stop and make sure that data is not lost. So if the truck is in the pound, it shouldn't get lost. Now, I've had cases where the trucks blew up and went on fire, and the data did get lost, meaning it didn't get lost, it just got burned. So that can happen. But in terms of them saving the information, you want to ask to preserve it right away. And this way, if they don't preserve it, you can have what they call spoliation of evidence. That's destruction of evidence. And usually the black box data will stay on there for quite some time. Now, if they keep rerunning the car, then it can get overwritten, and that could be a problem, and you will lose the data. So first thing, as soon as the case comes in, send out that preservation letter, get on the phone, make sure they're preserving it, and then immediately get your accident reconstruction expert or your black box data expert, someone who can come in there and download the data for you. Now, there's companies that do this. If you don't know a company, feel free to send me an email or call me, and I'll help you get the information you need wherever you're at in the United States.
Sagi, can you actually share an example of a fatal truck accident case where black box evidence changed the direction of the investigation?
Yeah, so we had a case. It was a left turn case involving an 18-wheeler, and our client was on a motorcycle. And the 18-wheeler had told us that he did not push the throttle going into the intersection, that he was just rolling through the intersection. And we know that wasn't true. At least he testified to that. And we had the black box data showing that he was really pushing that throttle heavily to make it across that intersection. And our client, really on a motorcycle, had no ability to stop. There was just no way for him to stop going at 45 miles an hour to stop. The 18-wheeler, what they should have done was stopped or really not use the throttle, let the motorcyclist pass, and then go. But we knew the 18-wheeler was not being truthful with us, we'll say it that way, when he says he wasn't pushing the throttle at the time. When he was really moving that 18-wheeler and really caused this collision because he violated our client's right of way. And that was a game changer for the case. Once the defense found out that their client wasn't being truthful at deposition, and we showed them at mediation how he wasn't being truthful, that changed it from no longer being a disputed liability case to now being what they call a clear liability case in our favor. And that case ended up resolving for a lot of money. I mean, you can imagine motorcycle with an 18-wheeler never ends up good. And it didn't end up good in that case either for our client. Thankfully, he survived, sustained some horrible injuries, but survived. And we were able to get him very good compensation for what happened to him.
Amazing that he would survive that. It's unusual, isn't it? Sagi, is it possible for a trucking company to control or delay access to black box evidence after a serious crash?
So, I mean, I guess anything in the world is possible where they can get in and alter it, but I doubt it. They would really have to have the software from the manufacturer to alter the data in the black box. Now, they can delay a person or a plaintiff's attorney or someone who wants to get the black box data downloaded. They can delay all that. But if they delay it and it gets overwritten, that's a problem for the trucking company, especially if someone sends out their preservation letter, and in your preservation letter, you're specifically detailing what you want done with the data and how you want to inspect the vehicles and not to touch the vehicles, not to move the vehicles, not to really start the vehicles, so you can have your expert download the data. Because once the data is downloaded, there's really no worry anymore. You have the download, you've done the inspection on the vehicles or the truck, and you're good to go from there. So it's super important, extremely, extremely important to get that done right away. And at a minimum, send your preservation letters. Because if the trucking company messes around with the evidence, they're going to have to pay the price for that. So hopefully they don't do that. And we all get a fair shot at looking at what really happened in the trucking crash.
I'm really fascinated by the data that can be pulled off of these black boxes and how they're used in these cases. I know that you'd mentioned that oftentimes scenes are recreated by experts, but is there information that investigators may not learn from a crash scene alone that must come from being able to use these black boxes?
Yeah, so a lot of times you don't get there's just data. Sometimes you can get like braking distance because you see the skid marks left in the road, right, or scuff marks from the tires. You can get that information, and then you can back it up with what you got from the black box data and what you got from the roadway markings. Speed is very helpful if there's cameras involved and you can tell from one point to another. But when you don't have cameras involved, that's where the black box data can really help the accident reconstructionist really put it together and tie in exactly what was going on at the time of the crash. So it's a data point that they use, the accident reconstructionists and the plaintiff's attorneys will use to determine those metrics that we talked about: the speed, the throttle, the braking distance, the braking at the time, seatbelt usage. All these things help put the pieces of the story together. So it's not just one piece of evidence, it's combined with everything else. It's the constellation of the pieces of evidence that you have that can make up that story. And you can use it the same way in a traumatic brain injury case. You're not just going to rely on that MRI that shows the person has lesions in their brain. You want all the other evidence combined to talk about this is how their brain injury is impacting them. So now go back to your black box data. That's one piece of evidence, the speed or the braking. And then everything else, what the driver was doing inside the vehicle, the perception reaction time, all these things combine and add up to make that story of really what happened. It's just a critical piece of information that we would want in every case.
And then you often tie that together with the witness statements, surveillance footage, accident reconstruction. Walk us through, like, how do these pieces all get presented in court to actually build the case?
So once you've gathered all the data, remember, we're preserving the data first, then we're getting the data. Now the data is with the accident reconstruction expert, or depending, sometimes you need a human factors expert, depending on the case. Now that they've compiled everything, they can start establishing how the crash occurred, what preventative measures, if any, the plaintiff could have taken, the person that got impacted, or the truck driver could have taken, and then they can present it to a jury. And then there's mathematical formulas they can use to determine speed. If we don't have the speed from the black box data, they can use perception reaction time. Usually it's 1.5 seconds, the average person. Now, as you get older, that slows down. So someone in their 80s, their perception reaction time, their ability to perceive stuff and then react slows down. It could be 2.5 seconds. So that makes a difference. And that's why as you get older and you're 90s, you shouldn't be driving is what they say. But maybe we're getting better as we're getting older because there's more technology, the people are smarter, they're healthier. But I still think perception reaction time drops as you get older. So that is important. The accident reconstruction expert will take that into effect use that to determine their ultimate analysis. Did the truck driver have an opportunity to avoid the collision that they caused? So again, all the data points are used, whether it's the cameras, interior camera, exterior camera, the cameras in the street, the witness statements, the black box data. It all comes together, and that's how you can get a better, a story, or at least find out what happened. Now, in a perfect world, we would have a video of how the crash occurred, and you're starting to see that a lot more now, and that helps. But the video doesn't show us how fast the person was going. the black box data with the video now tells a different story. So that's why we need the black box data.
It's amazing the technology and how it can really support these cases. Sagi, if a family member loses a loved one in a truck accident, what should they understand about how critical early evidence can be in uncovering the truth? What would you want them to know today?
So anytime a family loses a loved one, and I know firsthand, my cousin died in a bad crash from a drunk driver, that you need to get out to the scene right away. And the family is dealing with the tragedy, so they need to hire an attorney that knows what they're doing and is board certified, and has an idea of what they're doing in the courtroom. Because again, these cases don't start off in the courtroom, they start off in real life where they happened at the scene. So getting to the scene, extremely important. Bringing your experts to the scene, having your experts on board before the crash happens, meaning you've worked with experts before, they're ready to go out to the scene, an accident reconstructionist, a human factors expert. Don't just go out there as the lawyer and take pictures yourself. Bring professional photographers, because you never know what piece of evidence will help you. Even if it's not the same day of the crash and it's a couple of days after or a week after, still go to the scene because it makes a difference. I've been to the scene even weeks after the accident, and you still see stuff that you didn't see or you wouldn't have known had you not been to the scene. If it's happened in a local area, you want to go to the scene and see if there's any establishment in that area that picked up an accident. I mean, we had a case involving a amputated leg of an individual where he was walking really on the sidewalk, and a truck driver went onto the sidewalk and ran him over. But if you read the police report said that my client was walking in the street, and there was a witness that said my client was walking in the street. Had we not gone out there right away, gone to the establishment and seen, it was a local strip club. We went and were able to get the video footage from there that showed the individual was on the sidewalk and not on the street. So here you had a witness that was wrong, and you had a truck driver telling the police that he ran him over. He ran him over on the street and not on the sidewalk. So clearly, someone wasn't telling the truth there. And luckily, that there was footage from an establishment that we got, and that was over a week later. So going to the scene, extremely important. Doing the examination of the truck with your trucking expert, that's important. Do they have the right reflective tape? Do they have the right signage on the vehicle? Is there anything about that inspection? I can tell you countless of inspections that help make the case. So vehicle inspections, extremely important. Preserving the data, extremely important. And data, I mean the black box data, the video, witness statements. Sometimes if you can get there the same day, that's great. If not, speak to the witnesses before the insurance company has a chance to talk to them, because they're not there to help you at all. So those are some of the key things you want to get done if someone has experienced a tragic accident or lost a loved one. Immediately getting to the scene, preserving the data, and making sure you protect the case while the family is undergoing that tragedy.
Sagi, I want to thank you for your insights and your guidance through this process today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
That's it for today's episode of Road to Recovery, Advocacy and Insights for Trucking Accidents. If you'd like to learn more about Sagi Shaked and his work at Shaked Law, Personal Injury Lawyers, visit shakedlaw.com. You'll find resources to help you understand your rights after a serious trucking accident and what it takes to protect your future. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Share this episode with somebody who may need it today. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.